conceptually related words or images, hence the importance of language, what we always talk about here. Language and symbolism or imagery. You use the right words, the right language, you use the right images plus messaging. I guess the words would be the messaging, right? You mix messaging with symbolism, you get mind control. And that's what we've been undergoing for generations now. But we're seeing it at a level that we've never seen before due to the exposure of symbols and messaging through things like social media, devices, smart technology. Now, AI is just making that a whole lot more complicated and powerful. It's automating the delivery system of these words and these images. That's the big problem here. People are losing their ability to think for themselves because they are more and more outsourcing their human innate faculties to technologies, specifically in the form of artificial intelligence. And this is only going to turn out bad. It will only turn out bad if we continue on this way. And we will. You know why we will? Because people want to make that money. Social media influencers, Tate, for instance, just one example, has been creating this culture of greed, cutthroat behavior, this hyper capitalism mixed with technocracy. You know, think about it. That's what technocracy is. Smart tech, digitization, everything's connected, everything's instant and fast. It's so fast and so instant. Now you can get a damn machine to run everything for you, automate everything, and just sit back and collect a paycheck without even working hard for it. Artists are being replaced in many ways. Writers will get there. It's crazy. Now, the talentless sociopath can get a hold of some of this technology and create all types of things without the real skill, talent, or ability or drive to even do it. This is a big problem, guys. I keep rambling here. Let's just finish this up here, man. The priming process is theorized to occur when mental representations of the concepts are activated by a person's exposure to something that those concepts are related to. This activation influences how the person responds to the concepts, such as by making the response quicker. Some scientists have described priming effects as a sort of rational bias, very important, where the mind interprets ambiguous new perceptual information in a way that is consistent with information it has recently perceived. Hence the importance of throwing out symbols and messaging to us constantly. So what it does is it starts to create the grounds from which we understand things, and new ideas, novel ideas, or contrary ideas are ignored because we get this kind of one-track mind, and that's what's happening right now. AI is developing this hive mind in the populations, but that hive mind is in a sense one-tracked. I have here, so let's think about metaverse, which is really just spatial reality, okay, virtual reality or virtuality. Metaverse is actually just, in a sense, it's like a community within Web3 or the spatial web. So the metaverse really is not the big issue. It's just it's like a component. The real issue here is spatialism, right? This concept of the spatial web, whereby everything in the physical world is then connected to sensors, networks, and processing, such that it creates a digital twin of the physical world. What this creates is, I call it a virtual mirror, where it's literally a mirror of the physical world, but digital. And it can be accessed, monitored, managed in real time. Big problem here. This is a big problem. Now, it works great for industries, especially, I'll show you guys some things in a second here. It works great for certain industries, but the problem is, they're not just stopping at the industries, man. This isn't just for business.
There's a new world emerging right before our very eyes. A world where we seamlessly and naturally interact with augmented and virtual reality, opening endless possibilities to learn, collaborate, create, and explore. Where spaces and cities become smart, physical and digital goods are tracked, and people's identity, security, and finances are protected, enabling citizens, big data, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things to finally work together for the benefit of humanity and the planet. But have you ever stopped and wondered, how do we actually get from here to there? The last few years have shown enormous advances in augmented and virtual reality devices. Computer vision, location tracking, edge computing, blockchain, and 5G. But these applications and the devices and operating systems they utilize are not connected. They're siloed experiences. There's no common standard for how all these technologies and applications can work together. For that, you need a common protocol, a way to communicate between each of these technologies, allowing parties to agree on who, what, and where everything is in physical and virtual worlds. This enables anyone with the right permissions to discover what something is, who owns it, where it's located, and what can be done with it. It is a paradigm shift in the future of computing. The spatial web is currently developing multiple specifications and pilot projects with commercial and enterprise partners, as well as standards groups and governments. Join us and our many forward-thinking partners and industry leaders as we drive the next generation of innovation and lay down the digital infrastructure to support a better future and a new web for people, businesses, our environment, and humanity. Let's build the spatial web.
Now, how did we get here? So think about spatialism, virtuality, and you think about AI. I'll tell you where it started. This concept of spatialism, what is the messaging? The messaging is simulated reality or simulated worlds. The spatial web, the simulation theory, right? We're living in a simulation. It comes directly from video games. And of course, prior to that, it came out of science fiction. But not until video games were produced, not until then, did we have an understanding of the possibility of the world being simulated. Because through computer technologies, especially video games, they were able to design through algorithms, behaviors, narratives, etc. There's a lot of details and context, but we have to go back to Pacman. Pacman is where it all started. It all started with Pacman. Pacman is extremely important if we want to understand AI in relation to human behavior. Not just AI proper in general, because AI has been around since the 60s. But if we want to understand the metaverse, if we want to understand the BCI, the brain-computer interface.
Brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, can be used to create new pathways for these impulses. So let's take a step back. Just what is a BCI? In a nutshell, we're trying to connect mind to machine. The intention is to combine technologies like electrodes with external computing devices to obtain some sort of desired output, like an action. Electrodes can be placed in close proximity or onto the gray matter of the brain, creating a new neural network for the chemical and electrical signals our neurons communicate with to follow. These signals could be measured and modified with the help of the computer, which would read the data and perform the task we desired. Of course, this technology is still extremely new, and there are likely to be other methods that could potentially achieve the same goal, such as implants or something like neural lace, which is a mesh made up of a collection of electrodes that are rolled up and inserted into the skull using a needle, later unraveling and spanning the brain. Well, if we could connect a prosthetic to a brain-computer interface, it could be possible to move a prosthetic limb by just thinking about it. Crazy. This isn't 5,000 years away either. In fact, this technology is already being used.
We have to look back at Pacman, and I know that might sound weird, but let's go there.
Mr. Arcade, I need help. My husband won't come home.
Pacman, I can help.
Get him, Pacman!
Stand back. This is the official tabletop version of Midway's Pacman.
It looks the same.
And it plays the same. Monsters, power capsule, sounds, even displays best score. And best of all,
You can take Pac-Man home.
Official Midway Pacman for 1 or 2 players. The arcade game.
Now, many things hidden in that. Okay? Many things hidden in that. Now, first off, how did it begin? She was complaining about how this game was taking her husband's attention away from her. This is 1982, guys. We're already dealing with, well, we've been dealing with this, especially post, social media. But it's not a new phenomenon. My husband, he's just playing this game. This was the beginning of the atomization, the separation, the detachment, the attack on the family, the attack on relationship, the attack on relating. Gaming was one of the first steps towards this type of atomization, this detachment, this separation, or the first example of digital solipsism. Our first digital bubble came in the form of arcade games. So when I think about arcades, of course we have to talk about pinball, but pinball is different. It's physical. You're still dealing with real physics, right? There's lights and sounds, but it's still very connected to the material world and in physicality, right? Totally different. But once you start simulating things, you become detached, and the computer starts to imagine and create narratives for you. That's where it all started. I have here from Pacman to ChatGPT. Come a long way, guys. Come a very long way. Pacman was also one of the very first games. One of the very first games that used a type of AI. Okay, it's called deterministic AI systems. Okay, so the perfect example of this AI, this early AI, is the ghosts. So if you remember playing Pac-Man and how the ghosts chase you around, this is primitive artificial intelligence, or basically primitive machine learning. The ghosts there. So it's early AI in gaming. It's a type of a primitive machine learning. And I guess technically the term is infinite state machine learning, I think, or infinite state mechanics or something like that, if we're going to be really accurate with the terminology. But we have to look at Pac-Man. We just can't talk about AI. We can't talk about metaverse. We can't talk about Internet of Bodies. We can't talk about BCI, brain-computer interaction or interactivity or interfaces without talking about the earliest interface, the first real gaming screen, which was the arcade. Now, I'm sure there's other things we could talk about, but let's just try to keep things as basic and simple and foundational and general as possible for understanding. And if you look at this here, what are they selling here? This is pretty interesting, and that's why I pulled this specific example here. This is a miniature version of the arcade. So they already were trying to provide a mobile example, a mobile representation of this stationary, static, big box gaming system called an arcade. This was the beginning, and we'll get there eventually, but of course we have to consider the Game Boy. This was like an early example of the Game Boy, which eventually brought us the Game Gear, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, guys, mobility. But there was a Netflix show or film, I don't even know what to call it. It was an experiment. It was a thought experiment. In fact, I think it was a type of psyop personally, and I think it was a data grab as well. But if you guys remember Bandersnatch, and I'm sure if you guys seen this, you remember this scene when he was tripping out on acid, and that guy just went on and on about, in a sense, a type of simulated reality. What he's doing here, and it's funny how this came out right before all of this virtuality stuff started getting pumped so hard. I swear this was a type of predictive programming as well. But he's talking basically about how life is like a video game, just like Elon has said in one of our past shows. Life is like a video game. Everything's simulated.
So what is life for you? I mean, you look at our life, and I heard you before speaking. Is it a dream? Is it
Is life
real?
dream?
Is it a million D? What is life for Elon Musk?
I find as I get older, I find that question to be maybe more and more confusing or troubling or uncertain. I think particularly when you see the advancement of something like video games, like say 40 years ago, you had video games. The most advanced video game would be like Pong, where you had like two rectangles and a dot.
Come on, guys. What's his first reference to what's the meaning of life? The dude says he references a damn video game. A video game. He's not Gen Z either. You see how these people think? He references a video game for such an important question, man. The question of questions. You know, well, it's like a video game. Really, because that's how he sees life. Through the lens of a computer screen.
Or uncertain. I think particularly when you see the advancement of something like video games, like say 40 years ago, you had video games. The most advanced video game would be like Pong, where you had like two rectangles and a dot. You're like batting it back and forth.
I played it.
Oh yeah, me too, exactly. I
That's
played Pong. Exactly, it sort of dates you a little bit. But yeah, we both played the same game. And that was like, wow, that was a pretty fun game at the time. But now you can see a video game that's photorealistic, almost photorealistic, and millions of people playing simultaneously. And you see where things are going with virtual reality and augmented reality. And if you extrapolate that out into the future with any rate of progress at all, like even 0.1% or something like that a year, then eventually those games will be indistinguishable from reality. They'll be so realistic, you will not be able to tell the difference between that game and the reality as we know it. And then...
Look at how he says it. And look at how he's looking at him. He's like, bro, that's kind of weird. You're excited about that? That's what makes life worth living? That's the meaning of life, to slowly destroy it such that it becomes a video game, and the video game's so advanced that you can't tell it isn't real because you hate reality. You hate the material world. You hate people. You hate mankind. You hate nature. You hate God.
People think there's one reality, but there's loads of them all snaking off like roots, and what we do on one path affects what happens on other paths. Time is a construct. People think you can't go back and change things, but you can. That's what flashbacks are. They're invitations to go back and make different choices. When you make a decision, you think it's you doing it, but it's not.
When you make a decision, you think it's you doing it, but it's not. This is speaking to this concept of AI running everything, living your life through recommendations, references, or just straight up patterned heuristics that AI creates for you that dictates and informs your behavior day to day. This is, in my view, that's when I try to dig at the subtext of some of this. That's what I get out of this, especially seeing where things are going. They want you to believe that reality is a simulation. So if you believe reality is a simulation, you'll have no problem letting AI run the show because it's a simulation anyways, right? We might as well control the simulation by creating the algorithms that create it. Interesting.
It's the spirit out there that's connected to our world that does think it's you doing it, but it's not. It's the spirit out there that's connected to our world that decides what we do, and we just have to go along for the ride.
Just go along for the ride. Let go. Give up. Let the machines control you. Remember this, automation, guys. Removing humanity from the function of reality. We become... You know the rest.
Mirrors let you move through time. The government monitors people. They pay people to pretend to be your relatives. And they put drugs in your food. And they film you. There's messages in every game. Like Pacman. Do you know what PAC stands for? PAC. Program and control. He's program and control man. The whole thing's a metaphor.
Program and control. It's my personal belief. Through this adoption of this specialized technology, so-called this machine learning, we become the artificial intelligence because we're no longer freely, voluntarily, intrinsically creating ideas, engaging with the world, producing in general, creating in general. Hence, artists now using AI to do the art for them. It's mindlessness. It's literally turning yourself into a slave, giving yourself up, giving your will to the machine. See, we are becoming the machine. Because as we more and more outsource our ideas, our abilities, our thoughts, our emotions to the machine, we become the artificial intelligence. And that's exactly what Pacman is. He's just a machine that's working through algorithms. And you think you're controlling him, but the game's controlling you because the game is creating the narrative for you to follow.
He thinks he's got free will, but really he's trapped in a maze. The whole thing's a metaphor. He thinks he's got free will, but really he's trapped in a maze, in a system. All he can do is consume. He's pursued by demons that are probably just in his own head. And even if he does manage to escape by slipping out one side of the maze, what happens? He comes right back in the other side. People think it's a happy game. It's not a happy game. It's a nightmare world. And the worst thing is, it's real and we live in it. It's all code. If you listen closely, you can hear the numbers. There's a cosmic flowchart that dictates where you can and where you can't go.
Wow. There's a cosmic chart. A cosmic chart that dictates where you can and cannot go. He's speaking to the algorithm of Pacman that puts you in a maze, forms walls around you, parameters. This is precisely what artificial intelligence does through the concept geofencing. When they have these spatial networks up, when they have the spatial web created such that digital twins of the environment have been produced to the degree that all of your movements and behaviors can be monitored through processing data, then they can very easily create the game of Pacman as our reality, in that all we do is chase, the little pieces of food, whatever that is, which for us will be income and legitimate food to survive. The point is, it will be controlled algorithmically, so that's the parameters, but there will also be walls, okay, that are created through geofencing.
Geofencing is a location-based service that uses GPS, RFID, Wi-Fi, or cellular data to prompt an alert, action, or feature on another device. These alerts or prompts are triggered when a mobile device or RFID tag enters or leaves a pre-established virtual boundary. You're probably most familiar with geofencing in advertising. For example, if you download an app for your favorite grocery store, restaurant, or retail chain, and you enable location services, the next time you drive by that location, you might get a coupon, a promotional ad, or a simple reminder to drop in. Or you might head into a restaurant only to receive a prompt from its competitor across the street. In that case, the geofence is set up around the competition so they can draw customers away. In both instances, pre-established coordinates dictate a virtual boundary that can be used to engage with customers. However, for this to work, end users need to opt in to the app's location services. Geofencing is also popular with social networking, most notably in apps like Snapchat, where you can find geo-specific filters that only work within a geofence. You'll also see geofencing used to create audience engagement. For example, a concert venue might use geofences to crowdsource social media posts or to send out information about the venue or event. Geofencing is also increasingly used with smart appliances. If you have a smart fridge, it can send you a reminder that you're out of milk the next time you drive by a grocery store. Drones have also grown in popularity over recent years, and geofencing is one way to establish restricted areas for security or privacy. When a drone enters a restricted geofence, it might disable the device or simply send an alert to the user. There are also applications for geofencing in human resources, telematics, and security. It can be used to keep track of a business's vehicle fleet, to see when employees enter or exit the building, or to ensure only verified employees can access secure areas. While there are plenty of useful applications for geofencing, as with any new technology, it comes with some cautions. There are valid questions about security and privacy, especially with targeted advertising. And it's likely we'll see more regulation and laws around geofencing.
These are all very realistic possibilities when we think about spatial this concept of spatial reality. They're overzealous, these technicians and designers. The problem is, once this stuff is produced, there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. That's the biggest problem. Once it's here, there's no going back. Hence the importance of 2023. The year was 2023. One day, that will be said quite a bit. That was the year everything changed. Because from 2023 on, AI was more and more gaining ground in control of the physical and material environment of humankind. pull this here. Massive. Okay. The classic and enormously popular Pac-Man video game came out in Japan on May 21st, 1980. Wow, that's several days after I was born. That's pretty crazy. Amazing. And by October of that year, it was released in the United States. The yellow pie-shaped Pac-Man character who travels around a maze trying to eat dots and avoid for hunting ghosts quickly became an icon of the 1980s. Huge. It was the biggest thing. It pretty much put video games on the map. It created video game culture. Okay. I'm looking for a specific, actually, I think that's in this other one. Yeah, I think it's in this next one here. One of the most popular arcade games of all time, Pac-Man was released in arcades in 1980 and became a pop culture icon for the decade. Indeed, it did. Immensely popular. From its original release to the present day, Pac-Man is considered one of the classics of the medium, virtually synonymous with video games, and an icon of the 1980s pop culture. Upon its release, the game and subsequent Pac-Man derivatives became a social phenomenon that sold a large amount of merchandise and also inspired, among other things, an animated television series and a top 10 hit single. Another really important thing regarding Pac-Man is, at least initially, gaming was more of a thing for boys and men. Pac-Man introduced gaming to women in a way that had never been done before. Or I guess we can say Pac-Man was popular with women as well. Now, I think that might have had to do with Miss Pac-Man that came out a little bit later, but I think it was already gaining ground with women prior to that, hence the reason they even created Miss Pac-Man. I don't know if that's historically accurate, just a guess. But I do know for a fact that Pac-Man was very popular with women, almost just as popular as it was with men, and this never occurred prior in terms of gaming, right? So this is a big deal, but there's also a financial component here too that I want to mention. When Pac-Man was released, the most popular arcade video games were space shooters, Space Invaders being the most popular. The most visible minority were sports games that were mostly derivatives of Pong, as someone had mentioned earlier. Pac-Man succeeded by creating a new genre and appealing to both genders. Pac-Man is often credited with being a landmark in video game history and is among the most famous arcade games of all time. It is also one of the highest grossing video games of all time, having generated more than $2.5 billion. $2.5 billion in quarters. Quarters, man. By the 1990s. Let that sink in. Think about the 80s. Just think about economies of the 80s. Billions is a lot of money for the time. All through a video game. Can you imagine how powerful socially, behaviorally these video games were, or at least Pac-Man, to garner such support, craze, rave reviews, attention, the hours people would spend playing these things. I did it as a kid. I used to love going to the arcade. It was a big deal. The quarters you would spend. The anger that you would induce in your parents for asking for more and more quarters. Yeah, man, 2.5 billion in quarters, man. Coinage. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. But here we are. Now let's jump to 2023. Remember, I said from Pac-Man to ChatGPT. From gaming characters, because this is where it started. This is where avatarship starts. With playing a character, a fictional character that's a symbol that's digital. This is where it started. Picking your character in an arcade game has led to full-on avatarship, full-on digital identities and selves. Weird, very weird, but real. Now let's go to DARPA. Transhumanists are no longer a conspiracy theory, but they are telling us what they are doing. Let's look at DARPA representative, and from the horse's mouth, man. All we do is bring the receipts here. That's it. We're just bringing the receipts.
DARPA calls it transhumanism, military transhumanism. But in an interesting way, this is actually part and parcel of the whole movement towards robotics. It's not only making individual warfighters comfortable with robots, it's this idea of coupling man and machine and merging humans and machine. And DARPA is doing that with programs now with what they call biohybrids, which people might call cyborgs. You know, they're able to actually control a rat through a labyrinth remotely because they've implanted electrodes in its brain. They can do the same with a moth. DARPA in 2014 created a steerable moth by inserting electrodes in the pupa stage of the moth, which then transformed. The wings came out, and this part of the machinery is now part of the animal system. DARPA is able to steer a moth. DARPA calls it...
There it is. From the horse's mouth. And it just starts with moths, just like it just starts with lab rats and monkeys, and essentially transfers to humans. I think you should pay quite a bit of attention to how through a lot of this convid crap, they've used mice studies as evidence and rules for how to inform human biology. Equating the biology of a mouse to a human is extremely flawed, but I'd argue insane and dangerous if we're going to consider things like genetic materials and permanency. Like it's this permanent effect. You can't retract genetic information like that. Now I want to give you guys some examples. I always try to give you real world examples of stuff that people are using day to day that prove a lot of the arguments we make here and show bit by bit the steps being taken through consumer-based goods and consumer-based or commercial products and services. This one is called Pulsoid. Very fascinating. And again, they always target the gaming culture. That's why I have so much love and, you know, just empathy for the gaming culture, because they are, in a sense, one of the premier populations of experiment right now. Because a lot of these technologies, especially some of the transhumanist stuff, is going to be coming through software, essentially the gamification of all things and games in general. This is a type of now there is a little bit of imagery here. There's like a demonic figure that they're going to show, and it's really disturbing, and I can't like censor it, so I don't want to put this vision or visual in your head, but I just want to show you the commercial. So if you want to close your eyes for this, close your eyes, because it's kind of scary, especially if kids are watching. But I just want you to see this technology, because it's you'll get it, check it out, man. These are wearables. Look at this, man. For those that watch this show, like this is like damn. This is it's all happening, man. Yeah. Are you brave enough to share your heart rate on a video game? And I get the appeal, because what it does is it shows how scary a game is or something, because, oh, wow, look, his heart rate's really high. I get that appeal. But first off, let's just think about general health. Is it good to be getting your heart rate jumping up? And think about content creation and how, you know, the more engagement, especially for gaming, the more engagement, the better. So probably the goal will become logically to get your heart rate up as much as possible, get it as high as possible and as much as possible to increase kind of the reaction. Because say if your heart rate's through the roof, or the higher the heart rate, it's going to produce a type of awe or wow excitement in the audience. The audience is going to want to see the high heart rate because that describes how intense and crazy it is. I get that, but let's think logically about this. First off, is that good for the health? To be playing a video game that shoots the heart rate up high and then make that measurement or that rate an object of desire. Yeah, they show Dead Space game, exactly, right? Think about it. Good to see you, MK. You see this, guys. Not only is it not necessarily good for you, and if you follow the logical conclusion of it, could result in behavior that would encourage dangerous and harmful things to one's body. What does it require to even use wearables? What is it collecting? That's biometric there. That's your heart rate. This company, these clouds, whoever own these things, have constant biometric data on these users regarding heart rate. Don't you understand that those heart rate data points are extremely valuable to companies that produce this type of software and these types of video games? When you think that everything's being leveraged, everything is being leveraged for scalability when it comes to the data-driven epistemology, but also data-driven economies. If data is gold, let's get as much as we can. And the better the data, the more we're going to invest, the more we're going to promote, advertise, market, and push this stuff. Clearly, the higher the heart rate, the more engagement. Don't you think companies will start leveraging those data to create increased heart rates of those who play? I mean, come on, guys. What situation are we in right now where people are having what? Heart failure? You mean to tell me we're having a rash of heart failure in teenage boys who are the most that play the largest percentage of video gamers, people playing video games tend to be in this demographic, but they also are the same population that are suffering from myocarditis more than any. Yet we're going to sell this technology that encourages the rapid increasing of heart rate such that it becomes a fundamental interactive element of the game to begin with. Make that make sense. Somebody make it make sense. They don't care about your health. No, nobody does. That's why it's so important for you to care for your health. The Most High has given us instruction. He's given us guidance. He's given us an ability to have meaning, to have purpose, right? He's given us salvation, right, through his finished work. But you got to do something too. You're responsible for your health. No one else is. We have to start coming back to some of these first principles, man. We see the biometrics are all over the place, man. Biometrics are everywhere. Not just with the QR codes and ordering stuff and, entrance access to things, but now video games. This is the incremental foot in the door, step by step, technological mission and function creep. The biodigital convergence. They must slowly integrate us into this biodigital system, starting by getting us to accept or even look to give you as much biological data as possible. Gamifying it, as you saw there. Perfect example. Let's go to another use of this. Palm Pay.
I just paid using only my palm at the grocery store without credit cards and cash. Let me show you how it works. You need to sign up on Amazon One kiosk, you insert your credit card and the machine scans both of your palms. Then you enter your mobile number and agrees with terms of use. You're all set. I didn't believe that it worked that simple and decided to check it straight away. I just got something to drink and went to the cashier. And this is the moment. I just paid using my palm. Can you believe? What do you think about this technology?
You already know what I think. It's convenient and it's kind of clever, but then when we know the ultimate goal of these technologies, that's when it all seems very clear and no longer innocent and cool.
Seen before, but I've been thinking about it ever since. It's kind of bothering me. Have you guys seen these new stores that Amazon is building? There's no cashiers, no checkout area, no cash registers. You just Scan your Amazon app, walk in, take anything you want, walk out, and your Amazon account is automatically charged, and a receipt is sent to you by email. I'm honestly not sure what to think about this. On the one hand, it is very convenient, even kind of cool. On the other hand, it feels like the next level of surveillance. It feels kind of scary to be normalizing this. And it is going to be normalized. This is the future of grocery shopping and probably all shopping, and I'll tell you why. Walmart, for example, says that they lose about $3 billion a year from theft. But it's basically impossible to steal from a store like this. You can go ahead and try, take anything you want, stick it in your pocket and walk out. You're still going to be charged. You can't even get into the store without scanning your app. They know who you are the moment you walk through the door, and they've access to your credit card. This means that Amazon stores will automatically be more profitable, and that will force all the other stores to either drop their prices to compete or adopt the same model, and I suspect they'll do the latter. So imagine that in the not too distant future, shopping as a whole is going to be basically automated surveillance. Interesting as well that the book of Revelation says that there's going to be a time when you won't be able to buy or sell without a particular mark. You can really see how something like that is possible now. You can't just walk into a store like this and try to buy something with cash. It's not even that they won't let you use cash, you just can't. It's impossible. So again, it's convenient, but I think kind of scary. What do you guys think?
With retail thefts on the rise, Walmart CEO says they'll have to start raising prices or even close some stores. Eyewitness News reporter Marco Robles live in Porter Ranch with the details on that. Mark.
Yeah, John, good morning. Theft, of course, is nothing new, but the real issue here, the increase, is in organized retail theft when a large group goes into a store to take a lot of merchandise all at once and leave in a hurry. And that's happening at stores like Walmart. The CEO speaking out yesterday on this issue in an interview saying that these thefts could lead to prices going up, as you mentioned, even store closures. He indicated that that could be the case if prosecutors continue to have a lax approach to these shoplifting crimes. The CEO saying each store location has security measures in place. The other part of the equation is partnering with local law enforcement to hopefully correct this over time. This news from Walmart follows statewide efforts to tackle the issue. A retail crime task force with the California Highway Patrol has increased their presence at shopping centers this holiday shopping season to heighten visibility and make arrests. And that task force has had success since its inception. The task force has recovered merchandise valued at nearly $26 million. This video released yesterday by the LAPD shows that this isn't a Walmart issue. Back out live, rival stores like Target also seeing a major increase in retail theft this year, recently reporting $400 million more in losses this year compared to last year.
Yeah. I think it's creepy, disturbing, very, very weird, but